Item 11.
Notices of motion. Councillor Sargent.
Apologies to you, Mr. Mayor. I've been reflecting on the motion 11C. I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary interest. I sit on the Police and Crime panel, and I'm also currently in negotiation with the PCC, preparing a business case for potential takeover of the Essex Fire Service by PCC.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Veolia North Thames Trust were shocked when out of the blue they received a letter in April of this year from Veolia ES Limited to inform them that they would no longer be providing funds and that in future these would be transferred to the National Veolia Environmental Trust, VET, with immediate effect. Veolia ES Limited are the body who provide the trust income through the Landfill Community Fund. However, the Veolia Environmental Trust operate to a considerably different criteria. They do not fund schools, the restoration of places of worship, war memorials or equipment, whereby the Veolia North Thames Trust funded all such projects and many more besides. Over the last 15 years, the Veolia North Thames Trust has funded 1,329 projects in the borough and districts of Basildon, Thurrock, Castle Point and Havering. In doing so, they have granted over £55 million in funding to worthy causes and projects that will have touched the lives of all residents living in those communities. Within the Basildon Borough alone, the Trust has funded 375 projects totalling £12.2 million. This funding has played an intrinsic role in delivering positive community improvements throughout the borough. Examples include funding of £42,000 to the Wickford Memorial Association for the Wickford War Memorial, over £100,000 for the redevelopment of St Gabriel's Church, extensive improvements to Wat Tyler Country Park costing over £1.5 million, and funding for the restoration of the Basildon Walking Village. More recently, the Trust have funded the Council to deliver numerous locally valued improvements in Wickford Memorial Park, including the soon-to-be-completed pavilion restoration. There is a significant difference in the future funding criteria. Veolia Environmental Trust has set a maximum limit of £50,000 funding per application and now covers the whole of England. An interest in waste is all that is required, i.e. a waste contract. The applicant no longer needs to live in the vicinity of a landfill site. The Veolia North Thames Trust had no maximum or minimum limit, and funding was restricted to only Basildon, Castle Point, Thurrock and Havering, all with far greater interest in landfill waste. Trustees are currently lobbying for a reversal in the decision, as well as proposing ways in which Veolia ES Limited could themselves liaise with the Environmental Trust to change their criteria to safeguard local community groups and organisations living within the vicinity of landfill sites, who no longer have the opportunity to apply for funding as per the Veolia North Thames Trust funding criteria. Local MPs are aware of the situation. The Trust is currently awaiting a response from Veolia ES Limited, but a positive outcome is not expected as the Veolia North Thames Trust is due to officially cease to operate on November the 30th this year. A letter from this council to Veolia UK requesting they give priority consideration to projects from the borough to offset the negative effects of the ongoing landfill activities in Basildon will hopefully encourage them to reconsider their rather hasty decision.
Thank you, Councillor Sargent. I believe it's Councillor Hollyman to second.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of points of clarity, really, based around Councillor Sargent's excellent comments, and that's to do with what Veolia have actually achieved in the area. And I think we should be certainly looking at the fact that Veolia have, in fact, as was stated, provided the funds to make a lot of difference right across the borough. We do currently have 3 landfill sites within these boundaries, and 2 of those are obviously reaching completion now, with 1 more going that way. The decision by Veolia Central has obviously been brought about by such a good job that has taken place over the last few years of making people recycle at source. Consequently, there is less and less waste going to landfill sites, and at a recent meeting the figure was quoted of over 30% reduction in landfill movements, and that will continue to go on over time. So if we look at the less use of a landfill site, coupled with the facts that the tax that is coming in from it is also declining, then really we are seeing what we all hoped would happen, and that is less waste going into landfill. So consequently, we are the victims really of our own success. In terms of the letter, I would highly recommend we do this because several projects are underway, and Veolia Central again have stated that they will look very favourably on us, provided that we meet the criteria which they are currently applying, which is slightly different to the Veolia North Thames Trust. But I'm pretty sure that with a little bit of tweaking, we can very easily work within these new guidelines, and perhaps with a slight decline, we shouldn't really see too much for the next 2 or 3 years. After that time, hopefully, the amount of waste being carried across the borough would have declined, so the impact on local residents won't be as great. So consequently, I would again second this motion very strongly that we should do a letter, but really stating the fact that as a borough, we have been very grateful for the opportunity provided to us, and we hope this continues for the foreseeable future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alderman. Councillor Hillier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I say, Councillor Sargent indicated in her address that the Trust was made aware in April that the funding would cease. And they were only made aware, Mr. Mayor, as far as I can understand, because the payment that they were expecting to receive in February was not forthcoming. And it was only when they asked where their February payment was that they were told in April, you're not getting it. And so the Trust, they believe, have been very badly served by Veolia Central. And I have in my possession here a letter that is signed by Doug Bendrafield, who is the chairman of the Veolia North Thames Trust, and they have written to their Chief Corporate Officer at Veolia Environmental Services UK plc. And the thrust of their letter is on 3 areas. Firstly, recognising that the payment in February was withdrawn with no notice, and therefore the trustees are asking that that money should be forthcoming, because they were not given prior notice of that. Secondly, there is an interest in the area, continuing interest in the area, and the way the funding has been is that organisations such as Scouts and schools and so on have been able to benefit from the money, and that will cease in the new arrangements. And thirdly, the fact that within the North Thames Trust area, there are 3 landfill sites that Councillor Holman has just indicated, and therefore there is a continuing interest from the residents within the Veolia North Thames Trust that they are taking all the rubbish and they're going to see very little benefit from it. And so there's a belief that the Trust would like to see continuing funding of projects within the trust area. Now, I haven't been given authority to pass it on, but I would think that it might be of interest to the Chief Executive if this motion goes through, to have a look at what the context is, so that he can put a letter to support what the Trust are doing and to put the case for Basildon in his notes to Veolia Environmental Services. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hillier. I have no other speakers, so I'll call Councillor Sargent to wind up, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, all I can say is that the Conservative Party on this side are very much in favour of this. We will definitely be voting for it, and I thank the Councillor Holliman and Councillor Hillier for the information that they've given, and know that we definitely thank Veolia for all the work that they've done over the years. They've done a superb job, and this borough has benefited, and the fact that there are no other speakers just shows how they probably may not come with this motion. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sargent. All those in favour of the motion, please show. Thank you. That's unanimous.